Welcome to the White House Fun Run. Remember, this is a fun run for all ages. We won't quite run a marathon, but we'll make a start today. By the way, you have all heard of marathons, right? What is a marathon? There is a very interesting and inspiring story behind the marathon. The story begins far back, in fact, 2500 years ago, in Europe, in ancient Greece. Greece had many cities, Athens and Sparta being the largest. Some 40 kilometers from Athens was a town by the sea called Marathon. Now these were the days when many wars were fought between countries. One fine morning, a massive navy from Persia, now called Iran, landed in Greece at Marathon. The Persians had launched a surprise attack to capture Athens. Of course, the people of Athens were in panic. They needed help from their neighbor Sparta. But Sparta was more than 100 miles away, and in those days there were no phones, no internet, no way to send messages. The way to Sparta had many mountains and rivers along the way, so it was difficult to ride a horse all the way to Sparta. So the people of Athens decided that they would send a message for help to Sparta using, can you guess what? A runner. Pheidippides, the runner, was asked to run the more than 100 miles to Sparta to seek their help. And Pheidippides ran this unimaginable distance for the sake of his country. He ran all the way from Athens to Sparta. The Spartans promised to send help, but after a little time, in desperation to save his country, Pheidippides then ran back all the way, this time straight to the battlefield of Marathon, where the battle between Athens and Persia had begun. After running hundreds of miles, he fought the battle with the Persians. And eventually, Athens defeated the Persians. But Pheidippides was not done yet. He then ran 40 kilometers back from Marathon to Athens to bring joyous news of Athens' victory to Persia. Just as he reached Athens and announced the victory, he collapsed out of sheer exhaustion, having run more than 300 miles in less than a week. But in doing so, he saved his country from sure defeat. Inspired by Pheidippides, marathons are held all over the world every year. A marathon run is 42 kilometers long, as a memory to the 40-kilometer distance between Athens and Marathon in Greece. This would be 65 full rounds of White House. 65 rounds. Can you imagine doing 65 rounds of White House? If you find it hard to imagine someone doing 65 full rounds of White House, see this picture from the Berlin Marathon in Germany. See the crowd, over 40,000 runners, each of whom runs the 65 rounds every September. And closer home, our very own Kaveri Trail Marathon, the most scenic marathon in our neighborhood. Hundreds of runners run along a beautiful canal with rich green rice fields on either side. All these runners run the entire 65 rounds. What drives these tens of thousands of people to run? Why, for that matter, should we run at all? Well, playing and running around comes naturally to us when we are children. That is what we enjoy the most, and that's what keeps us happy. But as we grow up, our bodies become bigger and heavier, and we play and run a lot less. And before we know it, we're all grown up. We become busy with our work. We sit at our desks or in our cars or in front of the TV for long hours. We have to look after our children and our parents and our jobs. And in all of this, we forget our enjoyable childhood days of playing and running. Soon stress builds up. We put on weight. We become weaker. And it becomes even more harder for us to run or play. And before we know it, the simple, fun run and play of childhood becomes the very thing we begin to hate. What should we do then? Exactly what we do when we are little kids. We should run and play. Of course, we have less time to run and play when we grow up because we have to study and work and do a million other things. But all we need to do is to take a few minutes every day to remind ourselves of the happiness and fun of childhood simply by running. Running keeps us light and nimble, so we don't find it difficult or burdensome to run and play. Running keeps us strong, so our necks and backs don't start aching just by sitting in front of the computer as they would for most people. But most importantly, the expression on this child's face says it all. Running makes us happy, and running is pure fun. So let us make a start today with the White House Fun Run. This is just a simple fun run. We will not do 65 rounds. We'll do just a few rounds to get started. We'll start at the badminton court and then run down between D2 and E1 to the outer loop. Then we'll go around the outer loop a few times. The outer loop is 650 meters long. At the end, we'll come back between D2 and E1 to the badminton court. Remember, this is not a race. A cheetah is the fastest animal on earth, but even a cheetah cannot run more than one round of White House. Why? Because it gets tired very soon. If you run fast, you'll run out of breath and get tired very quickly. You'll also trip and fall and hurt yourself. And you may end up pushing and shoving others. So don't run fast. Don't race. Instead, go slow and steady like a tortoise. You must still run as much as possible and not just walk, but run slowly. Run however slowly you want, as long as you run. When you start running, you may feel out of breath. Try to run slowly and take deep breaths. Don't hold your breath. Your breathing will take some time to catch up. So go very slowly until that happens. Once your breathing catches up, it becomes much easier and you will start enjoying the run. If you want to try running a little faster, do that at the very end of the run. Certainly not at the beginning. Most importantly, run with your friends. It's a lot less boring and a lot more fun that way. Remember, your White House runner medals are waiting for you at the finish line. Think about it as you run, so the excitement carries you through. So enjoy your run, but don't just stop once the fun run is over. Make running a habit. Get your friends together and run a few rounds of White House a couple of times a week, and keep the joy of your childhood with you forever.